Live and direct. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Monday Night Live. My name is Mo Rock, alongside Dr. Natalie Forrest. And Dr. Forrest, I think that today's episode is perhaps the most important episode that we've done all year. Of course, this is the final episode that we're doing for this calendar year, and it's a recap. It is a recap on all of the lessons that were learned this past year, and that's why we have such a special, powerful, incredible group of folks that are each leaders in their own right, and each have learned something very powerful over this challenging year that today they're going to graciously share with our audience that's being broadcasted all around the world. And again, I just want to do a couple quick housekeeping notes before we get started. First of all, Dr. Forrest, thank you for, as always, being a reliable co-host on this program. From my understanding, you are currently in Germany, where it's 4 o'clock in the morning. And, I just want to emphasize your dedication. And hopefully, the first lesson of this week's episode is dedication, right? And doing things that are uncomfortable for the sake of your passion, your work. And so, Dr. Forrest, first of all, thank you for joining us at 4 o'clock in the morning. And secondly, how do you feel about this week's episode and the subject matter and the group that we have?
I'm speechless. And that's not because it's 4 a.m., because I am a night owl. And as a global news outlet, we serve from wherever we are. So background's a little different, connection's a little different, but we're here. We're here because we want to emphasize, as you said, the lessons learned. For so many people, 2020 has been challenging. For a lot of people, it has been depressing and devastating. And then at the same time, for some people, it's been elevating. And so I feel like, especially tonight, not just with the panel that we're having, but with all of the stars and the meteors and all of that aligning, I could not be more excited, like internally, energetically, because I know we're going to learn so much from all of these amazing people. And I want to give a big shout out to our favorite person. Mr. Dayal is, of course, Absolutely. In the house. So hello.
Mr. Dayal, who is always there at 7 o'clock sharp every Monday. And we appreciate that, Mr. Dayal. And, for those wondering, recently we did miss 1 week, not because we were not active. Natalie, one of our media partners, of course, is Thai SoCal. And I know a couple of the folks here are also participants of that movement. And we had a surprise message sent in to us at the event that you and I both participated in recently. We want to go ahead and play a quick clip of that surprise guest speaker because it was sort of the highlight of the event. And we want to take a quick second to thank Thai and thank Thai SoCal for the work that they do, being an official media partner of the Los Angeles Tribune. But let's watch a quick recap clip, and then we're going to get started with this week's show.
Thank you, Mo.
And we'll be hearing a little bit from you shortly, Anil. So don't turn off your computer just yet, Anil, okay?
Yes.
And, guys, here at ThaiCon 2020 and in the work that we do at Thai in general is always and has always been about innovation and leveraging strategic partnerships to innovate and inspire and change the world. And earlier today, you may have heard me speak to the VP of Microsoft, Jeff Ma, who graciously shared his wisdom with this community. And we actually got a video from somebody who recently sent this in to us, a personal message talking about what we're doing, talking about the innovation, and talking about the work that we're doing at Thai. So let's quickly watch that and come right back.
It's an honor to receive this prestigious award from Thai. I'm sorry I can't be with you and my fellow recipients there to accept it, but I want to share a few thoughts about why your work is so important. I've always believed that innovation is the key to solving the world's toughest challenges, whether it's stopping a pandemic, avoiding a climate disaster, or just raising human productivity. But as Paul Allen and I experienced with Microsoft, innovators can't make it on their own. They need partners, supporters to help them make sure their best ideas make it from the lab to the marketplace. For more than 27 years, Thai has been doing just that. You support great entrepreneurs around the world and in some of the most important fields in technology today. Your work is essential to fostering innovation and creating the better world we all want. Thank you again, and I hope you have a successful summit.
Thank you, Bill. And we appreciate all of the people at Microsoft for supporting this community, supporting this movement, and being an active part in the difference that we as thought leaders need to make around the world. We're going to watch. And that was such an exciting moment. And, you know, a second ago, Natalie, I saw a clip of myself and I thought we were back on, but it was the previous me. So I got a little confused there. But nonetheless, before we get started, of course, we do have one final housekeeping note for those of you watching. Mark your calendars because February 20th and 21st, we have an exciting, groundbreaking 2-day event. And recently, we actually had word that Sharon Lecter is also going to be joining us, Natalie, who's the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and you know, the co-author of that entire movement. So mark your calendars, folks, for more information. Tune in next week. And with that being said, Natalie, let's roll in this powerful, eclectic group of folks, because really what we have this week is we have two things: powerful, and eclectic. So I want to start off by everyone giving a brief introduction of you know, who they are and just their first initial thoughts of what comes to mind when you hear 2020. What does that mean to you? Real quickly, let's start with Sherry.
Hi, I'm Sherry Gideons. I'm a spiritual teacher, high vibe thought leader, and mentor in life mastery. And I'm the host of High Vibe Nation. And 2020 for me, to be honest with you, is such an amazing year because I already had been going inward, really looking at who I was on the inside, really coming to terms with my highest values. And so I've been able to share that with many people worldwide with High Vibe Nation and interviewing thought leaders like yourself.
Incredible.
Awesome.
And we're going to hear more from you. And of course, readers of the Los Angeles Tribune know about the next guest. He was named one of the top attorneys in all of California earlier this year. Stephen Mashney, the floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sammy, also known as Stephen Mashney. I'm an attorney. I used to also be a pharmacist before that. I also like publishing in the media and expressing my views out there publicly. I run a law firm in Anaheim, California, and I'm so fortunate to have met Mo Rock because he's going to be my coach on the road to becoming a public speaker.
Well, thank you very much, Sammy. And of course, the pleasure is mine. Carla, the floor is yours. We can't hear you, Carla. You're on mute.
Hi, guys. I just wanted to keep you in suspense. Thank you, Mo.
Ooh.
Thank you, Dr. Forrest. It's a pleasure to be back and to see all of you again. I'm Carla Elizondo. I am a marriage and family therapist in Los Angeles, California, and I also host a show, Inside Talk Show, on Instagram. And I would say this year, the theme, bend, don't break. That's kind of my theme for this year.
Bend, don't break. And Goldilocks, how do you feel about that slogan, bend, don't break?
I'm glad she had something great to say because the jury's still out for my 2020. I'm going to try to not be negative, but it was a hellhole. And I think that that's important to remember, that everybody had different experiences in 2020. And even if you did have some things, well, let's just say break, Carla, not bend, okay? If things did break, it's important to not dwell on it and not tell everybody and pick up the phone and tell the butcher, the baker, and the candlestick maker. You know, is it Wallace D. Wattles that had a wonderful book? This guy was, you know, older than dirt. He wrote it in 1902, and it still applies today. And I remember reading that book, everyone, and he just said, no matter what is going on in your business or in your climate or in your life, don't speak ill of it. Don't speak negatively. You know, go around it, go over it, go beneath it, go through, do something. But you don't have to blow smoke up, you know, but just try to find the silver lining in 2020. And if anything, I leave it on my note, Mo, is just permission to be bold. I've been hearing that, like, man, anything can go in this year, and carry that in and carry that into the next 2021. You know, you don't have to be, you know, hanging naked from the chandeliers, but you definitely can be bolder than you could before, because now it's sort of like a new arena for everybody. So use that to your advantage.
Incredible, Goldie. Sanjay Dalal.
Good evening and good afternoon and actually good morning to Dr. Forrest out in Germany. Great to see you guys all online. I guess for me, 2020 is two things. One is it's very humbling. It's very humbling. I think it has really taught us what life and what this journey is all about. I mean, I've seen a lot of reality around me. A lot of folks have suffered a lot. I've seen parents of people, they're no longer there. I've seen mothers, I've seen fathers go away. And I've seen even some, people I've known well. So it's been a very humbling year for sure. At the same time, it's a year of appreciation. I think it's an appreciation year where I feel there's a lot of gratitude. We are all still here. That alone is an appreciation of sorts. Both, my son moved in with us. He's an adult. I feel that he's been with us for almost 8-9 months now. He works at SpaceX, and I think that's a huge appreciation. I mean, I can't imagine that he would ever have spent so much time together, but not for the pandemic of sorts. And I feel like every day with him has been a blessing. Same thing with our daughter who came home, for summer as well. She's at school. And appreciation of the fact that, there is still a lot of positivity around us. We have the vaccine which is being rolled out now. And hopefully that should usher in a lot better 2021, I can tell you that. So I'm very hopeful of the vaccine and the positive effects of that. Appreciation of the fact that I had a good year in business, not a great year. Definitely it wasn't great compared to 2019, but I'm not complaining. I think, I challenge myself, like if we can walk out of 2020, hopefully together and hopefully intact, I would consider that a huge blessing. So I would say two things: humbling for sure, and at the same time, a lot of appreciation for what's still there. So thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I feel you with that. It's
Yeah.
been like a lot of appreciation. Well, I'm going to take your thunder, and I'm just going to invite the amazing Cellini to give some thoughts on 2020 before we go to Jeremy.
Thank you. Well, very much like Sanjay and Goldie, I feel like 2020 just leveled the playing field for so many all over the world. And it was a great year just to go with the flow. I mean, this was one year that you could just flow with it, learn a lot, have a lot of gratitude, really nurture the relationships that matter, and slow down a bit to jump into 2021 with a lot of hope and a lot of great opportunity. I always find challenging times as great opportunity zones, so to speak. And so I think that we're all going to be better, for this, because of this year going into 2021.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, hopefully we can always get a little better. And Jeremy, you're like smack in the middle right now, and you're actually, I have to say, you like lit up like the great constellation right now, like the great conjunction we were supposed to see tonight is like all shining around you. What are your thoughts?
I feel like I'm in
So
Hollywood.
you're going to be our Whoopi Goldberg this evening, Jeremy. Right in the middle.
Well, my name is Jeremy McDonald, and I am a spiritual teacher and holistic life coach. One of the big things that I learned this year, and then I can take into 2021, is this compassion. I mean, that's just like the biggest thing. I've seen so much going on, a lot of negativity, a lot of arguing, and of course, the best of people, that can get to you. And so I find that not only compassion for others, but also compassion for yourself. And because it really starts with yourself. If you can give that compassion to yourself, it's going to radiate out to others, and it's going to be a lot more second nature than it would be if you're just trying to practice doing it and struggle doing it to other people. And I found that as I've been doing that, it's been making my life a lot easier. And honestly, I look back at the year, and even though the other lesson is flexibility, this year is actually not. I mean, yeah, of course, it's come with challenges. When I look back, it's. For me, it's been an okay year. I mean, there's a lot of other things I would have liked to have done, but flexibility, that's where it comes in. So, yeah.
And, Natalie, as we discussed before we did this week's show, this is really not only about the lessons learned in 2020, but as we've talked previously, knowledge and wisdom without the ability to act on it is really useless. I have a saying, the fruit that you pick from a tree, if you can't eat that fruit, of what use is it, right? And so we talked a little bit collectively about 2020, but what the nitty gritty really, and for the folks watching this at home on Amazon and watching this on Roku, watching this online, watching this after the fact, they really want to know what to do in 2021. A lot of people, I know most of the people here on this panel, entrepreneurs, most of the people here had the ability to sustain the year, but a lot of people didn't. And a lot of people don't even know what it's like to be an entrepreneur, don't even know what it's like to create their own revenue, so there's a lot of people that are lost, helpless, and hopeless. And I know for the people on this panel that are natural born leaders, that sometimes is something that gets lost in the sauce, so to say. So I want to take a moment now and talk about 2021 and what can we tell the person watching this that's feeling lost, feeling scared, feeling helpless and hopeless about 2021, and using 2021 not just literally but metaphorically, talking about the future. So because she was such a great keynote speaker at the Thai event, let's start with Cellini and then move along.
Well, I only know how to be an entrepreneur, and for those of you who don't know me, I'm the best-selling author of a book called Passport to Beauty, where I went around the world and found the best beauty secrets from every country, and I've developed beauty brands for myself and a lot of big companies like Paramount Pictures and Turner Classic Movies. And I'm the founder of Readysetjet, where we're actually using beauty as a vehicle for global change. And it's interesting that you talk about 2020. The brand that we created was born because the government of India had asked me to come help impact the girls that didn't have any, access to education after the age of 15. And so we had planned on taking part of our proceeds from the sales of our products to create an academy where we would go into the slums and villages. But this year, I would say around March is when I started getting a lot of girls all over the US, women, the UK, India, reaching out to me on Instagram saying, hey, I lost my job. I don't know what to do. I don't necessarily want to become an entrepreneur, but I want to become self-sufficient. Can you help me? And we realized that in 2021, we really needed to broaden the impact, that there was a really new approach to living your best life, whether that was looking good, feeling good, but like, how are you giving back to each other and the creation of community? And so we're adding an online academy where, not only will, women be able to get skills, but then they'll have this tribe of like-minded community that they can go and talk to each other and make friends. And I don't know if any of you guys have been on Clubhouse this year, but it's been fantastic, even for me as an entrepreneur, just to meet new people, just to gain exposure for goals and things that I'd like to do in 2021, and just have people show up and say, hey, I want to help you. And so I think, with 2021, if you're out there, you're feeling lost, there's a lot of great resources right now where you can, find community and find groups of people that actually want to help you succeed. As well as what I love about what's come out of 2020 is just a real big focus on self-care and mental health. And I think that's really, really important with the year that we've all gone through. It's affected us in some capacity. So having those resources out there everywhere, whether it's on an Instagram Live, whether it's on Clubhouse, whether it's an incredible forum like this, where you can gain tools and knowledge, whether it's for your career, whether it's for your spiritual growth, or just making new friends, is really going to help you succeed in 2021. Thank you.
I love how Goldie always does that. You want to chime in, Goldie?
Oh, man. Yeah, Jeremy said a great thing. Like it's Cellini. That's how you say it?
Cellini, like Melanie.
Cellini. Say it again. Cellini, like Melanie. I got it. Jeremy made a really great point, and that is compassion. Compassion for other people, but compassion for yourself. So I think it was Mo that you were listing, if you're, what was the litany that the hopeless, and what would you say? You had three things. What was it? Hopeless and what? And
people that are hopeless, helpless, people that are lost, Goldie, because you and I, we have a great support system and we have great people around us, but there's some people that don't, and there's some people that truly had a lost year. And what we want to do this week is we want to kind of give them the gems needed to head into the future on the right track.
Well, and here's a gem. I did not try to be a leader. I just have a really big mouth and find myself in crazy places. So swinging from chandeliers. I people that are leaders necessarily don't. It's not that I want to be now, but I found it foreign when I was growing up. Mo, we both come from the same, cut from the same cloth. But I feel lost and I feel hopeless right now sometimes, and that's okay. And that's what I want to give people is like I'm the grand poobah, but give yourself permission to be a little rocky 1 hour, one day, but then dust it off and start the next day off and do what sounds like Shelly. Get it right, Goldie. God.
Call me Goldie.
Say it again, girl.
Call me Shell.
No, I'm not going to be that lame. Shelly.
Friends, Shelly, like Melanie.
Like Shelly said, there are so many hello, Larry. There are so many resources out there. And if you are feeling a little bit funky, mental health awareness, if you're feeling a little bit funky, get on and do this and do it for yourself and go looking for a resource or tell a friend, God, I'm just feeling a little off today. I got people that are powerhouse bad asses that confide in me and say, I'm a little off, and they're running, they're having years like Sanjay did or really good. And they're just a little not quite themselves. That's okay. Give yourself permission, have compassion and forgiveness for yourself, but don't wallow. Like we said in the beginning, start looking for resources. And there are so many people out there that legitimately will help you. Mo, you've got a couple of friends I've met through your community that I hopped on some things today just to help out, or, and it's good. It's good locking arms. It's good mutual publicity. But when somebody says to me, Goldie, I need your help, it's not all about, well, how much for me or what do I get out of it? It's just like Cellini. God, it's just like she was saying, like people do want to show up. And I think that they're more visible now more than ever. And I think there are more resources and more places for you to really find a kindred spirit and somebody that's going to feel just like you. So don't freak out if you're feeling a little funny or a little off or a little unstable. Just write a song about it, Mo. Come on. And the sun will come out tomorrow. There you go. I'm going to end on that one.
Thank you, Goldie. So I know him as a very pragmatic, a very methodical, a very logical man. So I want to hear Sammy Mashney's take on this from a methodical standpoint. He's first time I met him, I thought he might be like an artificial intelligence. I didn't know if he was like a robot or not because he's so methodical and intelligent. But I want to hear his perspective on this. Sammy, the floor is yours.
Well, thanks, Mo. The metaphor that comes to my mind about what we went through in 2020 and what we go through life generally is that, imagine if you're driving on a dirt road and all of a sudden you see yourself getting stuck in the mud and you start to panic and you start saying, hey, man, we're getting stuck, we better stop. And that's the last thing you want to do is when you see yourself faltering, don't stop, just keep going forward. Because if you continue moving forward, at some point you'll find yourself in the right time and place. But if you stagnate and you remain where you're at, you will basically die in the swamp of hesitation. So this is what I do, and the movement is not necessarily always macro physical, like human bodies or cars. It's also micro physical because in our brain there are molecules that move, although we don't see them. But if we think about them, we can visualize them going back and forth and etc. So that is movement, although we are physically in the same spot. But as long as your mind is alive and you're functioning, you are moving. And you must move in an aware, thoughtful, intelligent way, as opposed to just frantically moving around like a chicken whose head has been cut off. So everything has to be planned, thought out, analyzed, and then boiled eventually to a binary choice, yes or no, plus or minus, 0 or 1. And if you are able to achieve this thought processes in your brain, then it's very likely you'll continue going forward and you'll prosper, and you will also remain young and healthy. And that's my take on this. Just in a
Well,
nutshell.
thank you for that, Stephen, and thank you for proving my point. I told you guys, the first time I met him, I thought he might be AI because of the super intelligence, and now he's talking about binary decision making and zeros and ones. So I want to take a more holistic standpoint now, because I know Sherry and Carla, I know the two of you have a very holistic approach to leadership. And you know, one of the things I mentioned in the beginning of the show is we have an eclectic group of people that are all contributing a different perspective to things. And so I want to go to Sherry to have sort of a more holistic approach and see how people can combine the binary and the holistic. And then Carla.
Yes, awesome. Well, I want to start out by talking about 2021 broken down to the number 5. 5 is all about the opening of the portal. The portal basically is where the unmanifest becomes manifest. The portal of the number 5 is also about freedom. So 2020 was all about clarity. It was all about coming to the inside of ourselves and really getting clear about who we are. Earlier, I talked about values. You know, we're taught to have idealistic values, meaning we want trust, we want authenticity, we want to do good to others. But when we talk about our own individual highest values, that comes down to what feels good. What is it we love? I love to speak. I love to teach. I love to travel. I love to impact people worldwide and lift them to a greater, grander expression in themselves. That feels so wonderful. I could do that all day, every day, and have enormous energy and never get tired. That's what 2020 was about. It was about finding that, coming together as one, because you have to realize there's no separation between any of us. We are all individualized expressions of this infinite intelligence. We can call it God, we can call it our higher power, we can call it the universe. But the bottom line is we're not separate. We're one with each other. 2021 is going to be more about collaboration and unity. Because think about it, when we all work together, what happens is we raise the vibration of the entire planet. And that shifts when we work individually in ourselves, when we come to understand if our habit of thought is to focus on negativity, or I'm afraid, or somebody's doing something to me, the more we think about that type of thinking, we create a vibe. That vibe grows, it becomes a frequency. We put that frequency out into the universe and we pull back to us a match of what we are. And a lot of this is happening unconsciously. And so when we decide, you know, because I like to say what you're seeking is always seeking you. When we make the decision to live in today, to make a commitment to move through our moments of today, developing awareness. It's in those moments of awareness we can catch ourselves when we go to that place inside of ourselves where we want to get negative, where we want to hate, where we want to judge, you know, lower vibrations. When we catch ourselves and we become the observer of our behavior, we become the observer of how we're being. And it's in that moment we can look without attachment of that same old emotion, that same old habit of being that keeps getting us the same results over and over and over. And so moving into 2021, it's about knowing this on the inside, but now it's about applying it. It's about not saying, I know this, I've heard this over and over and over. It's now about taking the necessary steps in the moment and beginning to apply what I call universal principles or the laws of nature that have been around since the beginning of time. And we begin to use them in the way that serves us. And I'm telling you, living in the moment, Every philosopher who's ever come to the planet's message has been live in the moment, be in the moment, because that's where your point of power exists.
So I want to real quickly, and everyone's going to have plenty of time to chime in, but I want to real quickly take it back to Stephen Mashney, because something that we like to do on this show is have people that have different perspectives share their thoughts, right? And I know there's a lot of people, Sherry, they kind of go back and forth between some of the universal principles that you're talking about and some of the binary way of thinking that Stephen is talking about. And some people do find themselves somewhere in the middle. But Stephen, just what's your general take about what Sherry's what Sherry just said and how you feel about that?
Well, Sherry brings very useful and respectable thoughts. Many people actually go in that direction. And I learned, in life, you must respect everything. You respect people, you respect animals, you respect objects, you respect opinion, regardless whether you agree with them or not. It's part of being a civilized human being is to respect others. I personally subscribe only to what is provable in court, not because I'm an attorney. Anything that's actually can be proven as a fact, either by science or logic. Anything that you cannot prove by science or logic, although I respect, these thoughts, these opinions, I personally so far have not found proof for them. Maybe my mind is lacking, or I'm not, intellectually developed enough to grasp these concepts. But for me, I run my life 100% based on what I'm able to prove, what I'm able to, with a straight face tell people, this is 1 + 1 = 2. Anything they can deduce logically, then the majority of people will accept that works for me. The things that do not work for me, I respect them, and I live and let live, but I conduct my life in a way that's not reliant on these thoughts, despite the fact that I'm very respectful of them.
And I, in full transparency, I kind of selfishly wanted the two of you to kind of talk back to back, because I feel like I have a little bit of Sherry inside of, there's like a small Sherry in my head talking and a small Stephen in my head, because I kind of go back and forth on this myself. And I know a lot of people watching are the same way. So if anyone does want to chime in, feel free to chime in. But because I brought her up, Carla, let's hear you. And then it's an open format, folks. Don't wait for myself or Natalie, please. Carla, the floor is yours. And then whoever wants to chime in.
Thank you, Mo. One of the quotes that came up from Eric Hoffer, one of my favorite quotes, it says, "In times of change, learners inherit the earth, while the learned find themselves beautifully equipped to deal with a world that no longer exists." So people who are at home feeling lost or hopeless, these times have changed. The world has changed forever. The past 100 years, nobody's ever lived through something like this, ever. So if you're confused, welcome to the club. Nobody knows what they're doing. I loved what I think Cellini said about it's an even playing field. It's an even playing field now. It's like everything got leveled out. And I couldn't agree more, Sherry, when you talk about it's an inside game. Not just physically, we were all forced inside, but we were all forced inside. Like everything got quiet. And we were forced with things we hadn't heard in years because we kept so busy. So I would say we are being forced to not live from the external, what you can see. And we're being forced to live from the things we can't see, maybe. Starting to kind of explore the things on the inside. I call it like flat earth. Like Stephen, you were saying, back if we lived a long time ago, you probably would have thought the earth was flat, but because it took enormous faith in what you couldn't see to believe it's round, So we're kind of on a cusp of that again. We can't just depend on our five senses, see, hear, smell, taste, touch. We have to go inside and listen to our intuition, that inner whisper, those things that we can't see. Because, binary, I love that too. I'm like Mo, I'm from one side to another too. I'm like, there's the laws of the universe, polar opposites. There's an in and an out, there's an up and a down. There's two sides to everything, black or white. And it's we have things we can see and things we can't see. We have a body and we have a spirit or energy. Science calls it energy. Theology calls it spirit. It's the same thing. So I think that we're all being forced inside to kind of use the inner senses, the inner faculties, as opposed to just letting the outside world, what we can see, dictate our experience of life, and really going inside to take back the power and learn how to harness things that we really gotten away from. And it's an inner game. It's all the mind. It starts with this powerful thing up here. So yeah, I think it's an inside game.
Can I jump in real quick? I know it's just like, I normally I try and wait, but I love this because as a historian, when the Honorable Mr. Mashney just said, I believe in everything that is right in the courtroom, because as a trained historian, we think like that as well, right? We don't believe anything until it's proven. And at the same side, if we're thinking all the way back in history, the initial leaders of faith and science were always the same person. They embraced science and they embraced faith. So initially they were always one person, and then somewhere it got split. So talking to what Carla was saying, right?
The age of reason.
Yeah, and so we're both. And I wholeheartedly disagree with Carla saying there's black and white, because to me all is one, thinking about yin and yang. So it always depends on our perspective, and we need the reasonable and we need the feeling. And then Carla, you were mentioning either yesterday or today in the Citadel, right? We're talking about embracing emotions. So it's like really connecting the two. And I think this year was really all about the Great Awakening. Who are we right now here? But I want to give it back to Jeremy because I know he was going to say something, and I think Mr. Dalal was also going to jump in.
I was kind of going into the idea of what everybody's talking about, and I've always said that when the war inside ends, then the war outside will end. Now, that's a metaphor to say that when the war and the anxiety and all the things that are going on inside of me start to get to peace, then I'm actually able to stand up and speak with compassion and truth to other people with peace inside of myself. And one of the things I have a lot of respect for with everybody on this panel is that one of the things we haven't seen in this year with a lot of people, just go onto Twitter or Facebook, we haven't seen a lot of people having this kind of dialogue where people are actually respectfully stating how they believe and speaking their truth, which is the nature of how I think we should be, is speak our truth and be empowered, and do that with peace in your heart. And when you have peace in your heart, you don't feel like if somebody disagrees with you that you're less than or that your ideas are bad. And so I think that if we work on that and do the inside job, as everybody's talking about, that's literally basic psychology. When we think about it, it's good getting to the root cause of why you're having a reaction about something, and embracing it, healing it, and moving forward. And to be a great leader, whether you're an entrepreneur or working for a company or working with your church or your community or whatever, a great leader has to be able to look within themselves and admit when they're having a weak moment, and ask for help when they need help, depend on their team when they need their team to come forward. And there's a lot of things that we could continue with this conversation a lot, but it really just comes down to, it starts with yourself, and then that exudes out to other people. Although, Goldie, I'm all about swinging on the chandelier, and I think we should totally do that sometime.
Jeremy, you are just a good pup. We have, I say gentle pups. We have lots of gentle pups on this panel. Mo, I don't know where you find all these hot babes and cool cats, because And I have to tell you, when you were talking, Jeremy, I was hearing respect, and it was really cool. Hot chick, Sherry. I was watching you react to Steven, because basically Mo's just back there doing his little mowing as he does.
Of course.
And it's so interesting because nothing that he said, even though it was completely different than your philosophy, was rude or disrespectful. And what I find interesting, funny, ironic is a lot of my friends who are atheists or agnostics, especially the atheists, they're better Christians than anybody that I see running around the Bible Belt of Tennessee. They are exactly like Stephen, where they are respectful and they think, and they're not just throwing verbal diarrhea at people waiting for it to stick on the walls. They're actually really, so I've met so many atheists, so many agnostic that I sit back and I enjoy listening to their perspective and their point of view, because like I said, it seems as though even though they say I don't believe, man, they're just walking the walk of somebody who supposedly does. And I
am sorry, but let me just clarify. I'm not an atheist.
I didn't say you were.
No, I understand. I respect atheists too. Atheism to me is just another religion.
I agree.
And to me, anything that I did not deduce myself by critical thinking, chronic critical thinking, to me, it's just a possibility. And I came up with this metaphor. If you're driving a car, your own car, when you're cruising on the highway, it's just like a car with an occupant. It's like a one thing. But in reality, there are two separate entities. The car, the engine, and the motor and tires and everything. And there are you, that entity that's actually deciding where the car goes. It could go down a ravine, it could go down left, right, etc. So it's completely separate from you. Now, I liken the car to our brain, to our mind. And us, the humans, it's like a separate entity, like our ego, our survival instinct, our reptile that's inside us. And the key to me for proper thinking, to be logical, to be on the right track, is for you, the human, to control the car, to control the engine, to control your brain, because the brain has a tendency to go in different directions when you have anxiety, panic, addiction, seduction, all these things that we humans try to avoid or steer away from because we're unable to control our mind. But if we separate ourselves from our mind, make our mind our slave, then we are able, no pun intended about slavery, we are able to control our life in a way that's healthy, that's logical, that's safe, that has many good attributes. So this is what I try to do on a regular basis. I'm not successful 100% of the time, but this is the path of my life.
So, Sherry, I want to take this back to you. And I think what's interesting to me right now is about a week ago, I watched a couple debates between Deepak Chopra and Richard Dawkins. And I respect both of them, and I read both of them. I read Deepak Chopra, but I also read Carl Sagan. And what's interesting is there are some elements that are a common ground. What Stephen just talked about is observing the thought, or stepping outside of yourself, which is a very esoteric, spiritual, and mystical concept. But he would not see it that way. He would see it as a pragmatic, binary, left hemisphere way of thinking. So I want to just let Sherry have the floor a little bit, and then whoever wants to talk. But because the two of you started this dialogue and there was a contrast there, and now I want to see, Sherry, do you see a common ground with something that he said? Do you notice what I noticed? The floor is yours.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just so funny because my business partner is one of the most well-known neuroscientists in the world. His name's Dr. Jeffrey Fannin, and he speaks from the science side. I bring the science and the spiritual together. And you very much really described exactly what I was talking about earlier. Most of you don't know, I've had 2 near-death experiences. I've died twice over the last 24 years. First one, 1997, had the trip to the white light. I was released completely from the body, and I was shown why we are all here, what we have the capacity to do. When we talk about the Great Awakening, basically what's happening right now is we are all remembering the power that we are, the power that we have within us. Every single one of us are creators. And so when we separate the mind and we separate the ego and we begin to understand how our body is working in a chemical process, these feelings and these emotions that Stephen was talking about earlier, when we take them on and we own them, what happens is just like I said earlier, we invite more of that same stuff into our environment, into our now experiences. But when we become the observer, very much what you were describing, Mo, when we become the observer, we can look at that and that behavior and that way of being without attachment. And then we can choose differently. We can choose to reach up to what we really want. And so the second near death I had, in that experience, I was told I was going to die in 6 months without a heart transplant. Instead of attaching to the diagnosis, needed a heart transplant, going to die in 6 months, what did I do? I went in and used my mental faculties. I went into my imagination. I began to imagine my heart pumping perfectly. I began to watch every cell dancing and uniting with blood flowing perfectly. When people wanted to talk to me about doom and gloom, what did I do? I said, how about we talk about how I'm going to outweigh the odds, how I'm going to persevere, how I'm going to win. My own doctor, a cardiologist, thought I was nuts. Over a 3-year period, one day I walk into his office and he says, you are the most amazing person I've ever met in my life. He says, because what did you do? You went from basically 137 heart production back to 100%. I'm completely healed of 2 heart attacks, and they can't show signs of me having had any heart attacks. And it was from using deductively my mind in a way to where I was projecting the thought patterns in a way that was projecting more light, tiny particles of light. That's what this entire universe is. It's photons, tiny particles of light. And that's what all of us are.
Well, when you think about light and particles, light brings truth, right? So when you're talking about healing yourself, you're breathing in that light of truth into your body. And it was interesting. I had a very good friend of mine that was a holistic medical doctor, a graduate of Harvard Medical, and I had asked her a question. I was like, well, what is cancer? What does cancer actually do? And she says, cancer is cells that are not communicating with each other, very simply. There's a lot more to it than that, but that's very simply. And then why she mentioned that to me, and I thought about it, I was like, wow, our world is very much like that. There's a lot of cells not communicating with each other. And if truth comes in and changes that, truth can actually change cancer and put it back into order, and then the cancer cells will actually shrink. And I've seen that happen over and over again. Now, doctors say that's the placebo effect, and but I always say, what does it really matter what it is? The person's healed. And so it just really comes down to that. And I think that when you're talking about your healing, I think that's miraculous. I think that's absolutely incredible. And the near death is completely fascinating. So.
Yeah, the same thing happened with my daughter. The same exact thing happened with my 32-year-old daughter. We healed her from leukemia the same way.
Yeah.
If I may drop in a little bit. I think there's a famous expression attributed to Buddha, right? What you think you become, right? So I think ultimately a lot of 2020 is that, right? And going back to that awesome video that Mo shared earlier of Bill Gates, and coming back to 21 and, I would say actionable steps for entrepreneurs, I think if you want to become good innovators, as Bill Gates said, you need great partners. And one of the buzzwords, if you may, of 2020, despite what happened, was togetherness, right? I mean, we are all alone together. And, there is a famous African proverb, like, if you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, you go together. And I think this year, has really taught us a lot more about what that together meant. We kind of forgot, and now we realize this is really a big deal. And I think I'm hoping that 2021 finally brings that together, back to reality, in the sense where we all can mingle and do, meet our teams and do more things face to face. But ultimately, going back to what Bill Gates said, if you want to really excel in 21, you have to find partners to help you get there. You can't do it alone. So if you're an entrepreneur who has struggled a lot in 2020, which a lot of us have, I think a lot of entrepreneurs, they are also impatient, but also a lot of entrepreneurs are, I want to say, they have a nature that doesn't go out asking for help. I would say change that nature, right? I mean, go and be, make your change yourself, where you figure out, bring that self-awareness, as a lot of us talked about earlier, including Sherry and Stephen and so on. Bring that self-awareness out and say, look, here are the areas where I'm not good at. Here are the areas that I really need a lot of help. And then find, that team or partners who can really help you grow and help you innovate, where ultimately, if you do a great job, then I'm pretty sure you will have an awesome 2021.
I just want to pop in for a minute. I agree with what Sanjay was saying. I think collaboration is the name of the game, and there's no really wrong ask right now. I mean, if you need help, ask for help. But I also want to go back to what Sherry was saying. I also had a big spiritual awakening. I was struck by lightning actually in 2015 on my way to see a Korean master in Sedona, and it changed my life. And what came out of that weekend was that you actually, through your thoughts and exactly what you were saying about, being up here, you control the story. So if things aren't working out the way you want them to, you can actually just mindfully change the story and completely shift your life in a different direction. And I think, that's the beauty of learning how to navigate through those narrows, is really having that relationship with yourself and knowing that you can really create anything you want by just changing the energy of your thoughts. Yeah. And clearly you did that in the most incredible way with your heart condition. I mean, it's just fascinating.
Yeah. No, it's so true. And the same thing with one of my twins. I had twins, and one of the twins was born without a throat, and she was born with half vertebrae and all kinds of other congenital issues. Today, you would not know there was a thing wrong, and that was by, obviously I'm her mother, but I taught her how to shift her thinking in a way where she was able to command her thoughts in a way that the body basically is conforming in a way where it's 100% whole. And you wouldn't even know today unless I told you. And I don't have anything in these stories I'm telling you of these other people. They don't have anything that every single one of us doesn't have ourselves. Every single one of us has the ability to create our own reality and literally demonstrate in our lives anything we desire. But it comes down to awareness. And then from that place of awareness, just like everyone on the panel has been saying, love each other, because each one of us is a reflection of each other. When people are showing up in our moments and they're causing triggers in us, they're reflecting a piece of us that's revealing itself to be healed. I know we want to judge other people and we want to, be angry and upset about what's going on right now. But in reality, the truth of it is every single one of us has volition. And it's in that volition that we can choose. And I call it NLP, stop, the swish, stop, and make that sound. So you're creating an anchor in yourself where you realize you do have the choice. And every one of you on the panel is beautiful.
It does look like Sammy was looking to say something. Sammy, the floor is yours.
No, just a quick thought. Thought is like diets. There's so many different diets, work for so many different people. We are not carbon copies of each other. Whatever works for some people, it's correct for those people. Whatever works for others is correct for others. It just depends on how your mind is structured and how you decide which direction you want to go. At some point in the past, I thought of coming up with a new religion. And I don't say that frivolously. No, I say that seriously. Just because you come up with thoughts and everything, there are hundreds of thousands, millions of people who will follow. If you remember Bhagwan Rajneesh, For example, he had so many followers, but he
Are we
became
gonna get our own? Are we gonna get our own city, Sammy, and call it Mashney?
No, because if I do that, I cannot be true to myself. I have to lie and tell others things that they will believe, but it's just inside me. I know I'm fake, so I try to be brutally honest and tell people what I think and what really works for me 100%. I'm on top of the world, that I know a secret that so many people don't know, and I kind of look at them. I feel kind of sorry for them. I'm not talking about anything here on this panel. I'm talking about generally how I see people who are into the things that are not completely based on science and logic.
What's interesting to me, Sammy, is you speak about being a binary thinker, a logical thinker, a pragmatic thinker, and knowing you, that's all true. But you just said that reality is subjective, and earlier you spoke about turning your mind into a slave, metaphorically speaking, which is very much a spiritual practice. So what's fascinating to me is there seems to be a lot of spiritualism in what you're saying, because if all reality is subjective, and if you can step outside of your thoughts and turn your mind into a slave, would you not agree, Sherry? And I keep going back to you because you understand what I'm saying. But would you not say that that's a pretty spiritual thing?
Absolutely. And I was just gonna say, I love what you're saying, Stephen, because you're really saying the same thing I'm saying. You really are. You're just saying it in your way.
I see that we are biological machines, and machines run, according to certain engineering. And I would like to be the engineer who's running my own machine. It's as simple as that. Not dependent on anything outside me, period.
And I would say that's a fallacy, Stephen.
That includes religion, spirituality, anything that's esoterical, metaphysical, which is fine for other people. But to me, it's not necessary. I'm able to run my own factory inside my body and my head efficiently, without hesitation, without fear, without anxiety, without panic, without anything that I'm unable to control within me.
Yeah,
well, you're the captain of your ship.
I would say, yeah, captain of your ship and captain of your soul. And I would say it's a shame that we've all been programmed that God or whatever is outside of us. Because I do practice. I am religious, and the kingdom of heaven is inside of me. I don't see it anywhere outside. So that's the way that I kind of have evolved through mine. So yeah, you're right. There's nothing outside of me at all. So, but when I was younger, it could feel like there's something outside of me that I have to go and get. And it made me feel out of control. It made me feel like a victim. It made me feel, well, that's not fair. It made me feel entitled. Like, well, when are you showing? It was very much me talking outside and looking outside and being really pissed and having like existential rage. But as I got older and continued to kind of expand my awareness and read philosophy and science and study psychology and neuroscience and all that, my faith didn't go away. It just kind of shifted, like, oh, wow, I was really told stories that if I remained ignorant and just believed those, I would have been in a very different place than I am now. So yeah, I agree with it. Both, like, you know what I mean? Like you said, it's kind of saying the same thing, but differently, but we all have different, ways of expressing it. So I love that.
You don't look old, by the way. You're still young.
I do look good, huh?
Now, I'd love to jump in here and use some of what Stephen just said, or Sammy, I don't know which one you prefer, but you were talking, as Mr. Dayal, of course, also will say, the inner engineering. And before that, you mentioned something that I feel very connected to, which is, we all are not the same. So there are self-help books that work for some people, but they don't work for everybody. Like if I write a book, it works for me, and hopefully it works for a couple of other people, but I can't assume that my way is going to work for everybody. Just like one person can eat ginger and the other one gets sick from it, right? So if we're looking at it this way, I want to take it back to something that was asked earlier as well in our virtual auditorium, which was, so how do you do that? So we know that most of us here on the panel, we've overcome challenges, we've changed our mind, we were flexible, we collaborated, we found partners, we found people that we trusted that helped us. There are a lot of people, especially right now in 2020 with new lockdowns and all of that, that are alone, that are depressed, and all they know and see is it's bad, it's really bad, it's going to get worse. Yes, there's a vaccine, but you ain't going to get it anytime soon if you even want it. So there's this negativity that is being created. If you're by yourself right now, how do you get yourself out of that so that 2021 can be the year of opening, can be the year of collaboration and finding those partners, which is what you all have been saying. So what is the best advice you can give to somebody who's all by themselves? And I think Jeremy is about to jump through the screen.
Well, can I just start off with a really quick story to answer that? Because in the last recession, I lost everything. And like a lot of people, I lost my relationship, my job, my car, my house, and my storage locker I had that I put everything in everything was stolen out of it. So, I called it my 6 months of the cosmic 2x4 upside the hell, or 6 months of hell. And Goldie, trust me, I let all my emotions come through. I was pissed. And so let's just put it that way. And so what I did do, and it was interesting because I moved home from Baltimore, Maryland, down to Florida and moved back in with my mother at 32. That was not fun. And so I would lay in bed and I couldn't even get up. I would literally try to push myself out of bed and I would just fall back into bed. That's how depressed I was. And so one of the things that I started to do is I just started doing simple things. And so, I remind myself, I'm a sales trainer as well. And so I remind myself of the one thing we tell sales reps: KISS, keep it simple, stupid. And what that means is we overcomplicate everything. And so what I would do is I would just get up and take a shower and put clothes on and move from the bed to the couch. And so it's something as simple as that. And it seems silly, except that what it did is it started creating movement. And whether you believe in the metaphysics of it or not, it really doesn't matter. Movement just means your mind is starting to get active and has a goal set each day. Put your clothes on and take a shower. And then the next step was to start creating a plan of what I was going to do, applying for jobs, starting a business, all that kind of stuff. I decided to do both because I'm crazy. And so it's just, and I continued forward with that. So what I would say to the people out there is keep it simple and just do one step at a time. And the reason for that is because when you're in such a low depression, you have to start thinking of Abraham Maslow and going into the hierarchy of needs. What are the first things you need to do? You need to get food. If you don't have that, you need to find safety. And that's the beginnings of that. And how do you do that? You need to bring in an income if you don't have an income coming in, or find a place to live that's safe for you while you rebuild your life. And so it's okay to admit that you need help. And that's okay if you have somebody to reach out to. And if you don't, it's okay to ask for help from other sources. And so it's one of those things. So what I would say is that keep it simple and do simple things and do it one step at a time. And trust me, that one step is going to be 100 miles, and then you'll be a lot farther along than you think you are.
Yeah. So one of the things I was reading today and was a very alarming stat that in San Francisco they had more folks passing away this year because of overdosing versus from COVID. And that got me thinking that what is it? Why did people become so lonely, right? And obviously, a lot of, if you know the city life, a lot of it is mingling and going to bars and having a lot of ways to relax after hard day's work, and all that practically stopped, and folks didn't have a way of figuring out what they could do with themselves, especially as they got lonelier. So what we live in Orange County, but one of the things I've been doing with my friends from college days, we have a fantasy football league. And we have been playing fantasy football since, I would say, mid-90s. And this year is no different, but this year was even better because this is one of those years where we really didn't have much else going on in terms of camaraderie or friendship or taking some friendly jibes at each other. So that fantasy football really became a place for us to mingle online, on Zoom at times, on WhatsApp, as a way of sharing, what we are putting teams together every week in football. And so it took an extra interest. So I guess the point I'm trying to say is have some hobbies, have something where, you have a group that you can interact with, in a positive way, friends, do things, break some habits, have those diversions, if you may, because those diversions or distractions, which are actually in a way, I never thought of it as something uplifting, but I really found them to be how I was able to really spend the last 4, 5, 6 months, which frankly they've been really long, as we all know, but that kept me sane, if you may, because I was able to do these things with the friends that I love, that I've known for many years, and really I thought made me quite positive about what's to be expected in 21.
Mm-hmm. Very good point.
Yeah, I agree. I think, fall in love with becoming curious. Just be curious and get outside. Nature's the best healing in the world, I think. And, find a podcast, find something that you can use this time as a gift to learn. And maybe there'll be some inspiration that comes from it that actually puts you on your path, purpose, or gives you some type of epiphany of, a way to get out there. So, whether it's connecting with friends and finding things to do like Sanjay's been doing, which is great. But also just allowing this as kind of like a break where you get to learn and take time for yourself and go outside, listen to podcasts.
Well, yeah, back to Shalini's point, outside. Oh, wow. Every few days, you will see me we got the annual pass to the Crystal Cove State Park. I said, I'm just buying it. Every few days you see me parked there at the park and just spending an hour or two. So big things for outside and being in the midst of nature. Yeah.
And guys, we have actually gone over our hour, but we want to just wrap up and give everyone a final statement, a final word, real quick, 10 seconds or less, just your final impressions on the message that you want to send out to the world. And let's start with Goldie. You're on mute. Okay, while Goldie's figuring that out, let's go to Sherry.
So I just wanted to say one last thing in reference to a solution. Simple, easy, and silly. It's called Laughing Buddha. And you just start laughing. And you just get wilder and wilder and wilder. And as silly and crazy as it is, everyone, I want you to have a simple solution that just allows you to play. And you can do it in your own home, anytime, anywhere. And I'm telling you, it lifts your spirit and it taps you in to that joy inside yourself. And that's what I want to leave you with. I want to leave you with that joy.
Thank you so much. Real quick, 10 seconds. Goldie.
I just said, and with those great, Sherry, and with respect and compassion. And Jeremy, with what you said, if you just add making your bed every day to that, you will be on your way to really feeling like $1 million. That's it, Mo. Thanks for the time.
Thank you. 10 seconds, Shalini.
Go back to basics, give yourself a break. It's okay. We don't have to do everything. So just keep it simple. Like everyone said, self-compassion and be happy. Force yourself to smile. That makes a huge change, just physically forcing yourself to smile.
10 seconds, Jeremy.
I'm just going to say, have fun. Take a moment to have fun and put the stress aside and just do something that's enjoyable for you, whether it's watching a television show, going to the beach. It doesn't matter what it is, whatever brings you enjoyment, do that, because we need to take a break from everything else that's going on and do self-care.
10 seconds, Carla.
Set small goals. And watch the self-talk. Be aware of what tape's playing upstairs.
10 seconds, Sanjay.
Be hopeful. The future is bright for innovators, so let's go innovate.
10 seconds, Stephen.
Well, Sherry just brought to my mind a trick that I developed. It's a mind trick, and it works like magic. And it's basically when I said, make your mind your own slave, don't let it control you. And it goes like this. Suppose you're walking at your home or somewhere barefoot, and you bump your toes strongly on a chair or something, and you are in excruciating pain. Your initial reaction will be, go like this, you're in pain, you're agony, like as if you lost a relative, etc., etc. And you go through this normal process for about a minute, 2 or 3, etc. I started doing, once this happens, of course, I have this initial shock pain. Then I go like this. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt. And I completely reverse the agony direction in my mind to the other direction, and the pain goes away quickly. And I only do that not in physical pain, in psychological pain. When somebody cut me off the street, I start going, it doesn't hurt. You reverse your mind and you go forward in your life.
Stephen, as much as you like to see yourself as a pragmatic thinker, the more I hear you talk, the more you sound like Buddha. So I don't know, maybe you're much more than you
well, let me put it to you this way.
Pragmatic Buddha.
Let me put it to you this way. I'm happy that Buddha agrees with me.
Very good. And on that note, let's just give the final word to Natalie before we wrap it up. Natalie, final word.
I agree with everybody, and I want to add a different spin to it, because from what I have observed over this last year is that all of this is great advice, but if you're really down, depressed, ready to end your life, none of that will work. So my advice would be, find somebody to be accountable for. Find somebody that you can help. And once you have that, whether it's a pet, whether it's another person, once you know somebody else relies on you, the rest goes with it. Absolutely. And that's just something that I have
And
learned.
thank you for that, Natalie. And on that note, we are over our time. So we want to thank everyone for watching sort of Monday Night Live. We want to thank all the panelists and the viewers. Until next week, remember, actually, our next show is going to be January 4th of 2021. So thank you guys for the support, and we'll see you next time.